Hello and welcome to another video from the only source of information that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today I'm going to give y'all a little walk around of my forest, simply because I've been out here working, kind of preparing for the visitors that are coming to help me with my maintenance of my forest. So let's take a look at what I've started doing. As you can tell, I've been marking off a lot of these trees for sacrifice. We're going to be cutting all this stuff down. Everything that's got a ribbon on it's about to get cut down. Well, that isn't totally true. Some of the things that are out here are really big. The only reason I put them down, or I put ribbons on them, is for just in case we actually get all the rest of them cut. You notice this tree right here has been scarred, and I didn't see that earlier, but it's a big tree. I think I had a fire here at one time. You see this line going up, it was caused because there was a fire over on this side. And actually it looks like it's recovered. Maybe I'll put a ribbon on it anyway, simply because it's a really big tree, so probably we won't have time to cut it down. It's too close to these other trees that I don't have marked. It's really not healthy to have that many trees that close together. Aha, there's my second camera. The reason I'm actually shooting this footage is because Ala Toledo has been in my computer again. He's not back in the States, but he was able to do it remotely from an undisclosed location. And he's got me a really nice setup now, and I wanted to test it. He's been wanting me to test it. And I said, I don't have any footage. I took all my footage off. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and, if you see this, what that means is I've got my computer working and my editing software working, and that's good news. Alright, what I said earlier about that tree having that scar on it from a fire, that's what happened here. In fact, here you can see some of the old burn damage on this stump. This fire is probably, this 8 years ago probably, that I had a fire here. But that's the kind of damage it does. And this is a loblolly bay, which in the southeastern United States, swampy areas, these are the trees that always leave hollow stumps, and this will be hollow too. These things don't take well to scarring, so it has to come down. I have to put a ribbon on it. I don't know why I didn't already put a ribbon on it. You notice all the ribbons are different colors. It's not a code. I just had a whole bunch of this stuff, and it was all different colors. See, this tree is way too big for us to handle, but if we get everything else cut down and there's time left, then I want to take these down too. See, this tree, the reason it needs to come down, it's crooked all the way up, which means it's been harmed in probably in the hurricane. Now see, this here needs to come down, but it's a hickory, and I don't have too many of them, so I may leave it up unless one of these other trees is a hickory, because I need a few hickories out here. It's another horrible tree. I mean, it's really injured. And but it's just so big. It's leaning over. It's It's got crooks in it. It's got these humps that are going to get infected even though they look like they're healthy. You know, when I say get infected, I mean they'll get like things living in them, and then they'll start getting rot spots, and they'll get lichens growing on them. Lichens are those little fuzzy things that are on trees sometimes. If you see a lichen on a tree, I mean, they're pretty, and that means your forest is healthy, but it also means the tree is sick. And if I see any, I'll point the camera at it. Now, right at the corner of my property, which means that what you're looking at is not my property, but it's one of those areas that would look a whole lot better, and no one can see it. You know, the people that own it are not even aware of this. And if I take a lot of these little bitty trees down, it'll make these bigger trees really look nice. Each one of these ribbons, well, right now I'm with these little stick trees, so they're only about a foot each. But most of the ribbons I'm tearing off of this roll are 18 inches. And I've kind of estimated the amount of ribbon is on each roll and how many rolls I've used up. And so I think it's fairly, just as a good round figure, I think it's fairly safe to say that so far I have tied at least 500 of these trees off, which is not as much as it seems. Because, you know, actually, honestly, the amount of time it takes me to tie one of these ribbons on one of these tiny trees like this is actually more time than it would take for me to cut the tree down. Oh, here we go. I don't know, you can't see this, but that's a cherry tree that is obviously dead. I don't think I'm going to have to cut him down. He's in pretty sick shape. All the bark is peeling off of this. That's dead. I could probably break it off, but it'd be easier to put a ribbon on it, just cut it. Not only that, but these are all kind of locked together. If I pulled that thing enough to break it, I would get soaked by water dripping off of these leaves. But anyways, in the past, when it was just me and I didn't have anybody else to work with, I never put ribbons on trees that I was going to cut. And mostly because it takes the same amount of time to put a ribbon on a tree as it takes to cut the thing down. So you're just doubling the amount of work you got to do. But not really. I've been thinking about it. I've actually conducted a few experiments. When I was coming out here, like in an area like this, and I had my saw, I would cut a tree down, I would step back and say, okay, well, that one needs to come down. And I'd cut him down. And then I'd step back and say, well, that one needs to come down. You know, there's probably 50 trees right here in this little area. By the time I get 4 or 5 of them cut down, I don't have room to work. And so, and you can't really see what you're doing. And so by the time I get done pulling all that out and cutting it up to where I can cut through the woods and throw it into a fire pile, then I may have already lost interest in cutting trees, and so the rest of the trees don't get cut. But this way, no matter how cluttered it gets, if you can see the ribbon, you know it needs to be cut down. You can just keep on cutting and cutting and cutting, and I'm able to make good decisions about what trees to cut down and which trees to keep, simply because I'm looking at it and it's kind of uncluttered. So I'm standing here on ground. I'm not standing on a pile of tree branches. And it's nice. It's a comfortable environment to be thinking things through in. Okay, obviously what you're looking at right now is my beehive. And I don't know if you know this or not, but bees are kind of going extinct because of all the pesticides and herbicides that GMO crops have to use, GMO forms. And if you notice, there's no bees in my hive because I am now currently using insecticides and herbicides. Now I don't think, I mean, we live in a world where sometimes you have to use insecticides. Like right now I have a termite infestation in my house, or I had. I think it's done away with. But I can't simply allow my house to collapse to save the world, especially knowing that every one of my neighbors is spraying every kind of poison known to man on everything just to do it, you know, with no purpose. But for me, I've got an actual purpose. I need to spray that stuff, and so I'm doing that. And probably that's the second time I've ever sprayed insecticide on termites in my life. Now, there have been times when I've had wasp nest get into places where I have to work, and I've used that. But in general, I mean, my house is covered with wasp nests. I just leave them because they're not doing any harm. They're not going to hurt me, so they stay. This is the other reason why I haven't gotten bees yet. I'm 56 years old. This is the first time in my life I have ever used herbicides on anything. And it's probably, if I live to be 100, this will be the only time I've ever used herbicides. But a couple of years ago, I came out here and I spent a solid week in this area just cutting everything down, running my mower through it, making sure that it would be a good place for burning off some trash and planting a few fruit trees. And so I did that. I come back a year later and it's completely, it would take me another week to clean this just to make a spot where I could burn, because I don't have any trees overhead here, so if I burn here, I'm not damaging anything. I was not going to waste a week of my life preparing a burn pile again. And not only that, I felt like if I put the herbicide on, this time around it would go down into the roots and kill everything here. I don't know if you know how herbicides work. Once you do that, it's not a problem to go back and plant. So hopefully once this is over, we've cleared all this out and burn this stuff within a short period of time, I'll be able to plant, probably in the spring. And I'll put a couple of fruit trees here, maybe a pear and a citrus tree and a persimmon, something like that. Doesn't look like much, but that is so much work to get in there with all those stickers and grapevines. Working my way around all this clutter. I've already started stacking my trash in here. Now what's happened, the reason this is such a problem area is during Katrina, 3 trees blew over here. This big pile that you see of dirt is actually the root system of one of the trees. I don't know if you can see the log laying there, but anyway, something I've learned is if you can get a hot enough fire started and you can like burn that log, get it lit, that fire will go up inside of this pile and burn out all of the wood that's still remaining in there. So that dirt pile will get a lot smaller. Oh, check that out. It's an old piece of pottery. I'm hoping y'all can see that. I can't really tell what I'm looking at here. Yeah, probably you can see it. Let's see. Right there is the way it looks for me. It's like one of those old moonshine jugs, a piece of it. You see, this is what I can actually take these grapevines out with my mower because they're on flat ground. If there was a bunch of roots here, you know, tree stumps, I wouldn't be able to do it. Now, as you're looking at this project, you might be wondering why I would want to cut so many trees down. Well, these kind of trees this close together is just not healthy. And I do have some fruit trees in here. Like this tree right here should be 12 feet tall by now. That's a pawpaw tree, and it's not a native pawpaw. It's something I purchased. Here's a pear tree. It's not doing anything. It's been there for probably 3 years. here is a pomegranate that looks really sick. And a lot of that might be there's just too much leaf litter on the ground, which cutting these trees back may help a little bit with that, but not much, because the other trees will start putting out more leaf litter when they have more sun and more water and more everything. But yeah, all these little fruit trees I got planted in here are doing nothing. Now in the past I've said that fruit trees are understory trees. They can't really grow out in a lawn. And that may be less accurate the way I stated it in the past. All small trees are understory trees. So obviously they do want some shade, but they can't live in darkness. You know, under here it is so dense. We're really just not getting a whole lot of light in here. So that has to be done away with. And hopefully they'll do better. Now here's the thing about the fruit trees. The reason I figured that fruit trees can't grow in a lawn is I have never seen an orange tree that was more than 25 years old, and I know they can live for hundreds of years. But I was recently doing a little bit of research, and there's an orange tree in California that's 300-something years old, and it seems to be out in the lawn. So what I'm thinking is the reason that fruit trees don't live very long in a lawn is because most fruit trees are grafted trees. I've never seen a grafted tree that's as healthy as a tree grown from a seed. Now, as I'm standing out here and I'm telling you about cutting down 500 to 1,000 trees, that may seem like something mere mortals could never hope to accomplish. And so if you're one of those people that's watching who has volunteered to come help, just know that this is not that big of a deal. In the past, when I was doing this by myself, if I cut a tree down and my burn pile was over there and my tree was over there, I had to somehow get that tree to that burn pile. And a lot of the problem is these trees are so close together that you have to cut trees up into small bundles just to get through. You know, I've got a lot of fruit trees out here that are small, and if I'm dragging big things through here, they're going to be knocking those fruit trees over and breaking them off and killing them. And so if we start at the fire, at the burn pile, and start clearing all of that out, then we don't have to navigate anything. We can just go everywhere we drop a tree, we can grab the whole tree and drag it into that pile. We don't have to cut it up to navigate it through, unless of course the tree is so heavy we can't carry it. See how tight this stuff is together? Now this is one of the larger trees here, and it's a hard tree, and so it probably won't get cut down. But see how unhealthy this is? This thing has been damaged, and in the damage, some of the limbs started growing the wrong way, and now they're all rubbing up against each other. Everywhere that they rub together, you know, there's a possibility of them grafting into one another, which is kind of trying to take place right here. But what's more likely is it'll get sick and die. This is, by the way, a black gum tree or sweet gum tree. They're extremely hard. When they're full size, you cut them down, you just have to leave them where they're laying. You can't cut them up. Like I say, we probably won't get around to cutting that. Okay, well that's basically all the tour you're going to get. I got to get back to work on putting tags on these trees, which I probably will do tonight after it gets a little cooler. Not tonight, but you know, when the sun starts going down. In the meantime, if you're one of those people that has volunteered to come help, or you want to volunteer to come help, just let me know. As soon as I go to a car show at the end of September, beginning of October, and then my brother comes down and spends a week with me. And once my brother's gone, I'm going to get started out here, and if there's anybody with me, that's good. And if I'm by myself, I'll still be out here doing this. So love y'all, and as always, if you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.